Lauren Kwedar Cockerell, what do you know about public relations? How different is it from marketing? As a small business owner, I work with a lot of small businesses. Sometimes the difference between sales and marketing is a tricky question. But how about the difference between marketing and public relations? Where does marketing stop and PR picks up? We go through some scenarios of some crisis management, some things that have happened recently, and what to do, and then we go through some other scenarios that kind of give a bit better scope. But Lauren is really, really knowledgeable. She fascinating story of how she got into PR, but really, really knowledgeable. She started her firm, and then the challenges, of course, of being really good at something and then starting a business and having to develop those skills, business owner skills, entrepreneurial skills, very, very different. We see that in the tech industry too. We see these brilliant engineers starting companies, but then having to change the way they look at things, the way they view things. But great conversation with Lauren, really engaging, really smart, and knows PR, that's for sure. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because of working way too much. Before you know it, I found myself 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. Took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. People think there's some secret. Ask me, how'd you lose that weight? Like there's some secret. There is no secret. How did I lose the weight? Just one word: discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends, colleagues convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission: how do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually ask them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision: growth through learning from others. You are 100% the best at it. Lauren, tell me how a hummingbird flies.
Oh, well, I actually just watched one. I was like, are you seeing what I'm seeing?
I know you do. I know you love watching them.
Very quickly.
Not traditional because they have to flap, right?
Yeah, they're going real quick. They don't I can tell when they're tired if I see one resting. They're usually in a lot of motion.
And they're about the size of your thumb, right? They're relatively small.
A little bigger than that. They're probably the length of my pointer finger.
Wow.
Yeah.
And honey? Sugar water? Where do they?
I need to. It looks like there's a migration path happening right now because I've noticed an increase in them visiting the native plants I planted outside my window. So I do need to make some nectar for them. So it's I think it's a 1-to-1, or no, I think it's a 4-to-1 ratio of water to sugar, and they give them a little nectar for their journey.
In this fast-paced MSP landscape, how do you stay ahead? Introducing MSPinfluencer.com, your ultimate hub for MSP news, insights, and community connection, powered by Forza Dash. More than 75,000 MSPs subscribe to our MSP Influencer Pulse weekly newsletter, staying informed and ahead of industry trends. Tune in to emerging podcasts from Joey Pinz and leading MSP voices, offering essential tips, powerful insights, and success stories. Explore our multi-authored blogs, crafted specifically for MSP leaders, delivering fresh perspectives and actionable strategies. Celebrate excellence with the industry-leading Forza Dash MSP Influencer Awards, recognizing innovation, leadership, and impact in the MSP community. Join thousands of MSP professionals who trust MSPinfluencer.com to grow their business and expand their networks. MSPinfluencer.com, where today's MSP leaders connect, collaborate, and conquer, all powered by the Forza Dash platform, helping MSP vendors work effectively with MSPs and helping MSPs grow. And it's just sugar. It's just granulated sugar and water.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Did you do any other bird watching?
Oh, yes. Just from my office window, usually. I will, when it gets a little cooler, I'll put back out my regular feeder, and I get some beautiful cardinals, and if I throw out some peanuts, I'll get some blue jays, and the finches are curious. There's a couple, and I've when it's really rocking and rolling, I have a lot of feeders out here.
Really? Now the blue jays are aggressive, aren't they?
They are. Yeah, they're funny. I see them talking to each other, and it's fun to see like the pairs, the male female, because you can see the females have more muted colors, so it's fun to see them. showing up
That's
together
right, because
too.
the males are always prettier, right? Because they're trying to attract the females.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the usually you can see, especially with the brightly colored um ones, like cardinals and blue jays, you can see a distinct difference. It's easier to
Mm.
pick out the pairs.
The Cardinals are beautiful. That red, that color red that
Mm-hmm.
they are.
And I've heard if you see a cardinal, someone in heaven is thinking about you. So I always like to,
Really?
sometimes I like to pause, think about if it's, maybe a grandmother or something thinking about me.
Do you have to make eye contact or just seeing one?
I think you just see it is what I understand. So if it's just kind of hanging around, yeah.
Wow. How long have you been into birds?
Oh, right around the time I turned 40 or so. I feel like it's like a rite of passage into your 40s. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I have friends that are bird watchers, right?
Hmm.
They'll actually like go out with the
No.
but binoculars and with teams and stuff. I mean, that's I don't know much about it. I can't identify the different areas or different birds.
Well, I'm extremely passive, but the reason I can identify more than I used to be able to is because my parents gave me one of those like AI feeders. It's the Bird Buddy, so it takes
Ah,
pictures and identifies it for you.
how
And
cool.
that's pretty delightful. 'Cause in this,
Yeah.
it's like, Lauren, someone's at your feeder. Who could it be?
And they don't come at night, right? They're not nocturnal, right?
No, those are all diurnal. That I'm aware of. Yeah, they visit me during my working hours.
Very cool.
Hmm.
What's the difference, Thorne, between PR and marketing?
So I've always thought about it as and how I was taught since starting literally 22 years ago as of September 5th,
Hmm.
where leadership sorry, excuse me, public relations is a function of leadership and management. You're thinking about the reputation of the business, the vision for the business. And so a lot of the activities that we do in PR aren't necessarily tied to sales. So marketing is a function of sales.
Mm,
You're trying to sell widgets or services, and you're trying to get butts and seats. And so, marketing, you need to have an ROI. You're trying to affect the bottom line of the business, driving
mm,
driving those sales. And with PR, sometimes we're doing executive announcements. Sometimes we're doing crisis communications. That's it's really more about the reputation of the business, the casting the vision of the lead of leadership, and building your reputation. So they can and should work together. A lot of times some of the work that we do in PR is to support sales and marketing, but it's not necessarily always that. So they can have their own separate silos. We just like them to work together if they can.
hmm. So how does one know? What are the measurables in PR? How does one know when a successful campaign has been executed?
Well, it really is client dependent. We're always asking our clients, what does success look like to you? I mean, that's one of the
Mm,
first questions we ask. I ask prospective clients that, making sure that they have expectations that are grounded in something that we can really support. And then as we're kicking off strategy, what does success look like for you vis-a-vis our relationship? What are you trying to impact in your business? And so, a lot of times it's clear messaging and communication, and just making sure that our clients are able to really articulate what they want to have happen for their business. And it's very rarely, I need X number of clicks and visits to my website.
right.
Because that again is really more marketing.
Yeah.
So it's totally client dependent. And then with PR, a lot of times it's a rising tide is lifting the boats,
All boats. Yeah.
where we're creating an environment in which it is easier to do business, whether you're more on the reputation management side or you're more on the positive PR side. Being able to separate yourself from the competition, by having that visibility. And today with AI, um, our clients who are in earned media, they're in newspapers or online journals or whatnot, they are showing up in generative search because AI is prioritizing that type of
Mm.
information over your own content.
But when let's just go to the example of like kind of crisis management. Something
Sure.
happened,
Mhm.
whatever it may be. I don't know. Pick your poison there, and then you hire a PR firm.
Mhm.
Well, I don't know. Let's pick one. Let's just say that there's oh, you know what just happened recently? I don't know if you saw there was a baseball game and a
Uh-huh.
father grabbed the baseball and gave it to the son, and the woman came over and screamed and said, "I want that back." And so,
Mhm.
so let's say she hires a PR firm. What happens now? This is damage, right?
Right. Right.
Now this is a person versus a business, so it's kind of
Right.
tough, right?
Yeah, well, and I'm laughing because, I actually made a business decision a while ago to not take on net new crises. So if you're a brand new
Uh,
client and you find yourself in or if you're a business and you find yourself in hot water and you are not a current client of ours, I will refer you out to a specialist,
I
because
see.
information moves so quickly and there are 2 sides to every story, and,
Yeah.
what you've done or maybe you've made a mistake, maybe misstep, maybe you haven't, it
Mm,
everything and it's extremely as a business owner, crises are extremely disruptive to my own business, and so being able to be like,
yes.
"Okay, everybody, we gotta clear the decks. Everybody stop doing what you're doing. We gotta handle this." For a brand new client, it's just it can be a little challenging, so for me as a business, now if a current client, has an issue, that's a lot easier to step in and handle the situation. Uh, just because we know them, we know their customers, we know their employees. We can. It's so much easier to like, okay, here's what really happened. Here's what we can craft. Go ahead and begin communicating quickly around.
Mm,
And I was actually talking to a friend the other day. So you find yourself in a situation. A lot of times, people feel, and rightly so, that they have to be perfect when you're dealing with a situation. And I think one of the most important things to remember is to communicate as quickly and honestly as you can and to create a daisy chain of information where, okay, we we know something has happened. We are looking into it. We will be back to you in 2 hours with more information and just continue along that path and
hmm.
and make sure that you are as open as you can be without hurting yourself further. But this is why you want to have wise counsel to guide you through that. But if you go back further into the summer, I feel like this was a summer of CEOs behaving badly.
Mm. Oh,
If you think about
yes.
the astronomer situation with the CEO and
Mm.
his head of HR at the Coldplay concert,
Yes.
astronomer said nothing for a long time, and when they finally did, it was with the Gwyneth Paltrow ad, which was funny. Um, but they created a vacuum where they were just meme fodder for days. And,
Yes.
we come to find that, oh, yeah, they're spending millions of dollars on this ad instead of saying anything. But, when you allow folks to speak about your brand for many news cycles, like you have lost control. And so a lot of folks in my field would really have recommended saying something of yeah, that's not how we do business. We're taking care of this. We'll be back to you in X amount of time with more information.
Yeah, so it's crisis management. There's no way it can be erased, but then a smart firm. I also think this is about 10 years ago. Like Disney had a big issue, right? Where like the little boy got eaten by an alligator,
Mm,
and I don't know if you remember this. And we heard about it for about 2 or 3 days,
hmm
and then nothing ever
hmm
again.
hmm
Nothing, Lauren.
right.
I mean, so those PR Disney people came in and they just did whatever they needed to do, and just like I mean, it was a huge story for two
Right,
weeks, yeah, and
right.
then just nothing. So I mean, they did their job, right? That's what they did.
Yes, and also people move on. I mean,
Uh,
it's been just one thing after another. That's why you want to do it kind of more quickly than not, because if you get around to it 2 weeks later, well, now you just extended your cycle by 2 weeks. So it's like nip it in the bud as quickly as you can. Be as forthright and forthcoming as you can without divulging things that are not appropriate. You got to make sure you're staying on brand and protecting people who need to be protected, but also you creating a vacuum with how quickly things move right now. If you can be authoritative and calming, then you're going to be in better shape rather than letting people make a mockery of you.
I mean, because in that case, I mean, the parents were never on 60 Minutes, right? I mean,
Mhm.
we never. So, do you work in hand in this kind of huge critical crisis management? There's a legal team that's got to be involved, right? Because there's got to
Oh,
be NDAs, and
oh
gag
yeah,
orders, and kinds of things. So you got to work with
yeah.
legal people as well,
Mhm,
right?
mhm. But oh, yes, very much so. Yeah, legal is always involved in, especially if there's been someone being injured, if when it comes to bodily harm or death, then you're absolutely, then you're dealing with um law enforcement. I mean, there's lots of moving
Mm,
parts, and but if you got
mm,
Disney money, it's
right,
a different
right,
situation than if you're,
right.
running a small business.
So let's go the opposite,
Mhm,
a book launch or a
mhm,
product launch. So
mhm.
they want to hire a PR campaign. How do you help them?
Well, as I mentioned, we always begin with strategy. So, what does success look like to y'all? I mean, obviously, in this instant, you're trying to sell something. So, whether we're working with another marketing firm or in-house marketing, or we're handling everything because we do offer both services, although we specialize in PR. We're looking at all the channels that we have available to us as professionals, and we are looking at the timeline and what the message is, and how do you differentiate yourself from other authors, from other service or product providers, and trying to figure out what it means to the end customer ultimately, and then also, and then what are they consuming? Are they on TikTok? Are they reading their local business journal?
Mm,
Or like, where are they getting their information? So we start building a strategy that's, designed with the end in mind of, okay, well, who needs to receive this information, and then what do we need to say and provide so that they pay attention and then ultimately take action, because we're trying to inspire someone else to carry this message forward. So it's not just, you know putting out an ad with, buy this. It's creating something that is compelling enough for a journalist to even open the email in the first place, and then to either run the content we provide them or to reach out and have an interview, which we love. But if they'll run it, that's great too. But that's up to us to figure out how can we make the lives of the journalists easier, so that they want to work with our client, and give them something really crisp and compelling and interesting, and have them want to talk about it, and then
mm,
have make it easy for them to place it in their media, and then have the customer be like, "Oh yeah, that's for me." So we
mm,
have all these layers that we're thinking through, to help our clients be successful, and a lot of our job is in just helping our clients realize how they are ultimately different from others. Because they'll come and say, "Oh, we've acquired this other business," or, "Oh, I've written this book." It's like, okay, but what's really underneath that? What is what how why should anybody care? How are you impacting those who want to do business with you? And really pulling back those layers until we get to the thing that is truly theirs, their beating heart of their business or their brand. And so a lot of that happens in that for our first phase, which is strategy and content, and who's going to be on that media list, and what are we going to tell them. And then we move into something called we call the implementation phase. We're doing at least a 3-month sprint of putting the content out there. If the client doesn't have media relationships yet, or it's a new market for us, we're establishing those relationships and then nurturing them. Making sure that we are respectful on our client's behalf, and that that the because we're an ambassador for these brands. We're out there
mm.
speaking on their behalf, and so we want to do that in a way that is befitting of that brand, and also representing ourselves too. And so, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. And then, as we're successful, we are helping the client understand how to then amplify that coverage, because being in your local paper or being on a podcast, that in itself is wonderful, and there are ears and eyeballs receiving that information. but then what you do with it after that extends that wave and amplifies that coverage even further, so they really get the bang for their buck there, and providing that authority that comes with having earned the trust of a third party, so that and they are the ones sharing your news. So um it's, it's a little chess game we do every day.
Wow. What kind of so at the end of one of these campaigns, Lauren, like what kind of reporting do you give to kind of
Mhm.
quantify everything?
Yep. So we create these dynamic coverage reports with all the places that our clients have appeared. We'll link out to it if it's a digital piece. If not, we'll provide the hard copy or a scan of the hard copy, and then we also, as I'm sure you know, websites the internet never forgets, but websites do change. So we also include
Mm.
screenshots of every article so that you have that in your files to say like, oh yeah, we were in such and such business journal. They've since retired the actual article, but we still have it here. Um,
Mm.
and so you have that as your moment in time for your archive. And then there are other ways, if we have access to other analytical platforms like your Google Analytics or your social analytics, we provide that, so we're measuring where we started and then where we've ended. And there are a couple other places, like if we use a wire service, then we're able to see how many views and clicks and links. So we try to pull it together as much as
Mm.
possible. A lot of our clients are happy with just seeing where it went, but it can the tools are slowly catching up to our desires. But we try to provide as a complete picture as we can as to who shared their news and information, and what that looked like.
Is AI helping PR?
We are actually in September of 2025. We are at an interesting moment with AI, like I said earlier, where AI is pulling earned media, and it's almost like pay per click right now, where the
Hmm.
ROI for our clients is less squishy than it used to be, where it's like people are outranking others if you've been in media. So that's exciting. What we're also seeing though is with like the Google summary, for instance, where it's summarizing information, and it includes the AI summary includes some links, but not. Some people are like, oh, I've gotten the answer to my question, I'm not going to click this link now. So there are newsrooms experiencing a pretty drastic drop off in traffic, which affects their ad revenue and so forth.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I don't know what it's going to look like in 3 months or 6 months. Hopefully, we start to figure this out. I know there are some platforms out there that are going to maybe start charging a fee to AI engines, where if you want to crawl my site, you have to pay for that access. So hopefully the financial model follows, because we do need we do need journalism as our fourth estate for our democracy.
Hmm.
But right now, AI and PR are going very well together. And it's interesting too for providers like me who, yeah, I use ChatGPT and Perplexity and I'm using all of those to do research, or to help speed up some processes and things like that. But we're still, I mean, nothing is going to clients without our hands and minds and eyes touching it, to make sure that the work we've done on the front end of really figuring out who these clients are, and how they're different from others, that brand voice is true and all that. um, um, I as so in addition to having my business, I also have a podcast, so I get pitched a lot, and it is very clear to me when folks have just handed the whole thing off to AI, and they're like, okay, well, my day is made. I don't have to ever think about this ever again, because the
Mm.
bots are going to
Mm.
handle it for me. So it's a moment where I can differentiate as well, where, I still have, we still have story and strategy at the heart of everything we do, even if we rely on some tools to make things go a little more quickly.
Hmm. Hey, Joey Pinz here. Want to take your podcast experience to the next level? I'm excited to invite you to become a YouTube member. It's the absolute best way to support the channel and enhance your connection. Join our amazing community and unlock the incredible perks, custom loyalty badges, exclusive emojis, and priority comment replies. Your voice will always stand out. Be the first to watch new videos with early access, receive special membership shoutouts, and get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and updates. Dive into content available only to our members, special videos, deep dives, and insider perspectives. Engage directly with me. Suggest podcast topics you want to hear, and even get personalized video shoutouts. Hit the join button right now and become part of something special. Let's build this amazing community together. I can't wait to welcome you as a new member. Join the Joey Pinz family today. Should a small business, or Lauren, like an IT business, small IT business, should they hire a PR firm if they fire somebody who's 8 months pregnant?
That feels like a very specific. Well, they fired their PR person. So.
Ah, there's an irony there.
Yeah.
And their excuse, why would they do that to you?
Well, because yeah, they just eliminated the role. They just happened to do it at a very a tender time, very vulnerable time.
And you in college got into marketing and then later into PR. Do I have that right?
So I went to a small liberal arts school in Memphis called Rhodes College, and you had the choice. You know, so you could get an English degree or a business degree, or so I have a bachelor of arts in business administration, and I was able to emphasize in marketing, so take some extra marketing classes. I also emphasize in finance, and I also emphasize in English literature, which actually turned out to be the perfect cocktail for what I do. But yeah, I graduated, thought I might go into financial planning or insurance or something, because that's what my dad's business has been. He's an entrepreneur as well. And got out and thought, "Oh, I really don't want to do cold calling. That makes me want to just curl up in a ball and die." And a friend of mine from growing up, she and I were having lunch one day, and she was like, "Well, bad news, buddy. I'm leaving town. Moving to New York, and I got to quit my internship at this PR firm, and I'm leaving town." And I was like, "Oh, well, that's too bad. Can I have your internship? I need a job." I don't know what PR is. Let's do that. And so, yeah, when I started half my lifetime ago, September 2003, I didn't even know what PR was. And by the time I left that firm in 2013, I was the vice president.
Wow. What's the difference between, well, I'm in the tech field, so I end up talking to these brilliant technicians, engineers, and then they start a company, and then they're doing less and less what they love, and they're starting to, become business owners. Now you've made
Right.
this transition too.
Yep.
So how was that road? Do you still like it?
Mm. It's so interesting because, yeah, I started as a technician, and so you alluded to it earlier, I was laid off at 8 months pregnant from an IT
Yeah.
company, and I'd always wanted to own my own PR firm. Well, always, after I got into it. And I always thought, well, when I turn 40, that'll be a good time because I will know everything. 40 is the year
Wow.
all will become clear to me.
Wow.
Spoiler alert, that did not happen. But so when I was laid off at 36, it was on my mind. But at that point, I thought, oh, I have these young kids. I need to go work for somebody else. But because it happened at 8 months pregnant, I thought, well, I can't go interview right now. It's also, October. I'm having a baby in December. This is a strange time. So while I'm figuring things out, I will start consulting, and I'll be able to make sure I'm not putting my family in a bad position, and so on. But this is something that has been on my heart. I just don't know if now's the right time. But things snowballed. I mean, I was letting people know, hey, I'm around, and all of a sudden I had clients, and like, okay, this is it. This is the path. This is happening. The business is born. And I was extremely precious about everything. I was like, I am the consultant, and I am the writer. These are the things that I was put on this earth to do. So this is what I will be doing. But over time, as that entrepreneurial mitosis starts to happen, I thought, okay, I do need a little help. The volume of clients is to the point where I, I could use some backup for long form content. So I found a freelancer in early 2020, right before the world shuts down, and we start working together. And there's one day where it's like a client, they were my client, and I did everything for them, and I just, I was not gonna let anybody get in there. But I was super busy one week, and I needed, an 800 word article that required some extra research, and I thought, I'm out of time, Elizabeth, you're up. And she came back to me the next day, and I read it, and I thought, well, I guess I'm done with content creation.
Yeah.
And flash forward to 2025, she is now our director of story. She went to Harvard, worked in Hollywood, and now is here with us. And so
Wow.
I thought, well, I guess this is not my highest and best use now. And as I've let go of things like project management or content creation, at first, it's sort of like a releasing the white knuckle grip on it. But I have changed also, and I love running the business, and I love mentoring my team, and I love the sales and taking care of clients. And so now I'm, head strategist and head of culture, head of sales, and the team is running with everything else. And what I love has evolved too. And so it
Hmm.
it was sometimes a little painful. Some things were easier to let go of than others. But then I thought, well, gosh, if I'm doing this for people and I'm doing it for our clients, why do something that isn't in their best interest? And it's much better if Elizabeth or one of our other teammates, creates something for them. And I love seeing the wonderful things that my team members bring to the table. They're so talented. I'm so lucky to get to work with them, and we're better together. The things that we create together are so much stronger than if I try to do it on my own.
Often I find that delegation is a hard thing to overcome for business owners. Looks like you didn't
Hmm.
have an issue with that.
Well, I think I had to find a way that it worked for me. And I heard a
Mm.
term, I think it was this year. What is time? I forget. Where there's a difference between delegation and deputizing, where
Mm.
if you're delegating, you're expecting it to be this dialogue back and forth. I'm still overseeing and all that. What I like to do is deputize my capable team members, where like, this is where we're going.
Hmm.
How we get there is kind of up to you. Just, these are our constraints that you need to know about. Go for it. And I enjoy that, and helping them really step into who they are as leaders, and and defining a career growth path for them. Like, where are you trying to go with your one wild and precious life? What's going to work for you? Is this still, this is what your job description says. This is where we said we were going when I hired you, because I do a career growth path when I hire them. Like, here's where you are at hiring. Here's how I see this evolving over time. And I like to check in with them at least once a year about, like, is this still your path? Have you fallen in love with
Mm.
anything else? What works for you? And that has created a really wonderful culture and environment for them to really be great leaders within their domain, and on our team and with our clients. So delegation, yes. When I was a perfectionist, yes, very difficult. But now,
Yeah.
hiring people who are extremely competent and excellent at what they do, I'm like, oh, you got it. I've got other things to do.
Well, that's another skill too, hiring. I heard
Mm.
one particular incident didn't go well. I think your expression was, "If it's not heck yes, it's no yes," or something like that.
It's a heck no. Yeah. If it's not a heck yes, it's a heck no.
Yeah, we've all been there, right? Because they just
Hmm.
interview well, and then when they come on site, just something happens.
Right.
It's hard because you want that position filled so bad. You want this kind of
Hmm.
rock star, and just sometimes it doesn't happen.
Yeah. I remember when I was first, like, I had a team of contractors for a while, and then got to the point where it was time to W-2 it up. And I spoke to a man who's sort of a mentor figure. And I remember talking to him. He's like, don't be afraid. You're going to kiss some frogs. It's okay. Just get it over with,
Yeah.
figure out what you need to do. And um, so yeah, I have hired some folks who are no longer with us.
Mm.
They left, or I was the one who had to release them back to the economy. Um,
Back to the economy.
um, but each time I think, okay, what could I have done differently
Right.
here?
Right.
What did I overlook? What did I willfully overlook because I got impatient, or I was
Mm,
feeling desperate, or So first of all, never hire out of desperation again.
right.
But yeah, there was somebody a couple years ago, and like even to the point of us looking at each other across the table, and us both saying to each other, "This feels too good to be true," and us both saying, "Yeah," like a red flag, Come on now. And it didn't take long for them to go ahead and hand in their notice, but uh, it's it needs to be and wanting people to have a good experience here. um we're a small but mighty team, so it doesn't take much to kind of throw off the vibe. And so I do try to be pretty protective of that, and be thoughtful of how anyone can affect the dynamic. And we spend a lot of time at work. You want to try to make it as good an experience as possible.
Mm. Yeah, as I reflect, Lauren, I see that many of the employee failures, I'll call them a failure that
Mhm.
I had to send them back into the economy or they left, was really my fault,
Mhm.
and I like in the 90s when I started the company, I hired a salesperson and I handed him the yellow pages and said, okay, go get us some work. I mean, that's my fault. I mean, there was no marketing, there was no plan, right? I mean, there's no way that can succeed, right?
Mhm.
So, you just, there was different tools back then, and you just learn,
Mhm.
and you just get better. You just get
Mhm.
better with it. I remember one particular one gave me 3 references. I called the first reference, and they said, "Don't hire this guy."
Mm.
I said, "Okay, well, I'm sure that's." The second one said the same thing.
What?
So I said, "Well, I call all 3 anyway, but let's
Mhm.
say the third one said the same thing." All 3 references said, "Don't hire this person."
Wow, that's a first.
Yeah. I mean, 1 out of 3, I'm like, "Okay, well, they're
Yeah.
disgruntled there," but all
Mhm.
3, obviously, he didn't think I was gonna call. Yeah,
Wow.
very
Wow.
different times.
I thought you were about to say you hired him anyway. I thought, okay, that's it. That is
No,
on you.
no, very different times. Yeah. Yeah, he was my best employee of all time. No,
Yeah.
no, yeah, yeah.
Spoiler.
It's tough being a business owner. It's tough
Mhm.
because, uh, I find when people ask me, the 3 things that I say to small businesses that turned my business around, first was joining a peer group, right? And I
Mhm.
would meet with them once a quarter. We were in a room. It was wonderful. I'm not by
Mhm.
myself anymore. I could share
Mhm.
everything. Two is that there's a bunch of entrepreneurial operating systems, right?
Yep.
There's like 4 or 5 of them.
Mhm.
Adopt one.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter which one it is. And then lastly is be humble enough to hire a coach. What do you
Mm.
think about those 3?
Oh yeah. I have yes, affirmative. I'm sitting here with my EO mug, and
Yes, that's a great one. Yes, they're all
um
great.
yeah, yes, yeah, I agree. I mean, I think finding somebody you can talk to, because
Mm,
entrepreneurship is what an interesting journey. Like, you have to be an I think you have to be a little bit of an optimist, but you also have to be a little
yes,
delusional to
you
show
have to.
up day after day and deal with the pick your metaphor. Someone said I've heard people say roller coaster, and then someone said the other day it's like waves. You never know how long the wave's gonna crest. I was like, you don't know when you're gonna get hit in the face with some salt water.
Mm,
It is such a unique experience when you're thinking about taxes and payroll and sales and marketing, and are my teammates having a good time, are my clients having a good experience, oh my god, AI is taking over the world. And there's just so many things that can keep you up at night. But when you can sit down with folks who are also going through that, even if you have different experiences, you're still putting on your pants one leg at a time in the morning, and
mm.
having that you can talk through. It's my parents, who celebrated their 51st wedding anniversary this weekend. Part of their
Oh,
wedding vows were that they were to help each other divide their sorrows and multiply their joys. And
oh.
I think, when you're in a peer group like that, no one can understand the sorrow of needing to lay off a beloved team member like they can, and nobody can celebrate the big win or hitting like a revenue or profit milestone like other entrepreneurs can. I think other people can be excited for you. Your spouse might be like, heck yes, bank account's looking good.
Hmm.
But to be able to really understand that the high highs and the low lows, and so 100% yes. And then the coach one, the morning that I was laid off, I actually had just mailed a $5,000 check to a coach who was gonna. I'd hired her. I could sense in the company where I was working that things were shifting. I'm an empath,
Hmm.
so I could feel things were changing.
Yes.
And I thought I need somebody to help me. Like, I've never had a resume since 2003. Like, what do I do? Do I go in house someplace else? Do I start my own business right now? So I was thinking in terms of I need someone to kind of, and I was in a very toxic environment, as you might have figured from getting laid off at 8 months pregnant. And
Hmm.
so I needed some help putting my head back on straight. So the mail truck drives away with my $5,000 check, and then they call me that afternoon to lay me off. And I was like, oh shoot, come back. But ultimately, it was an extremely positive experience. Like, she helped me really process the trauma of getting laid off at such a tender time, and then really held me accountable for a lot of things. And so fast forward. This year, one of my team members has actually been working with a coach, as she's a young leader like I was, in helping her, build up her confidence. And so that's been a huge experience. And then I thought too, you know, Tiger Woods has a coach. Michael Jordan has a coach.
Yeah.
Like, people who are at the top of their game have coaches, even if they've been playing whatever game they are for decades. And so I have just reached out to someone, and we're starting on Friday, where I need like surgical precision. Lift me up. Let's get going. Like, I'm ready for the next era of me as a business person. And so I'm excited for that journey to start. And what was the second one? I forgot.
Entrepreneurial operating system.
Yes, 100%. So we were on scaling up
Yes.
for a while, and we switched to EOS this year. But a lot of the tools I got out of scaling up, particularly around meeting cadence and setting our core values, totally transformed my teeny tiny business. We experienced 70% revenue growth last year, and I think a lot of those fundamentals that we apply to the business were came from that system. And so now we're using traction, which is a little easier for the whole team to grasp. And that's been big.
That's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I
We
like
use
it.
that
I
one.
I
We use that one
co-sign.
as well. Yeah. Yeah. We use that one as well. When should a small business consider hiring a PR firm?
Well, you can begin right away as you are starting, and especially your hometown media outlets would love to share your story of the genesis of your business. If it's interesting and a little, different enough, if you've got that a point of view, then there's no reason not to do that at the outset. Now, after you get started, yeah, we could stick around if you have the capital, but you do really need to focus on marketing. You need to focus on whatever it is you're selling. Like, get those folks in to keep your business running. But once you've been going for a while, like, if you've got things that are interesting to people other than you and your mom, then you definitely should keep a PR firm on retainer where they're continuing to help you present your thought leadership, to help you differentiate from the market. Because if you think about it, if I have my option between service company A and service company B, and service company A, I see on their website that they're in all these media outlets and they're on all these podcasts, and then service company B has nothing. Maybe they have a blog that was
Hmm.
updated 3 years ago. Like, who are you going to choose? Like, A, all the way.
Hmm. You mentioned it also, Lauren, you have a podcast. What's the goal of the podcast?
Well, the podcast is called The Impatient Entrepreneur. So,
Are you
uh,
impatient? You don't seem impatient to me.
I don't. Well, I guess I'm
Oh,
on my
you
best
are?
behavior.
Right.
This is my second show I've ever had. I used to have a business partner, and when she exited her business, our podcast went uh, exited as well. And my team came to me a couple months later after I'd recovered from that transition. They're like, you need to have another podcast. And I said, about what? The other podcast
Hmm.
was about PR and marketing and communications and, our expertise. And I said, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Every week. I don't want to do that. I'm already doing it all day, every day. I don't know that I have something specific to continue to offer that conversation. And so I was talking to a friend of mine, Alea Harris. She's an incredible speaker and marketer, and I mentioned it to her, and she said the best advice she ever got was to start a podcast about a problem you're trying to solve for yourself. And I thought,
Hmm.
aha, I got it.
Interesting.
And so the idea around the impatient entrepreneur is kind of like asynchronous group therapy, like what I get through like EO or other groups where we are talking in a microphone about the trials and tribulations of starting and running a business. And some of the questions I ask are, what's something in your business life that has happened, and when it happened it felt like the rug got totally pulled out from underneath you and you were not sure that you were going to survive it as a business person, and but ultimately it turned out to be the best thing that could happen. And I love asking that question. I love the answers I get. I love hearing how people have approached these challenges with an abundance mindset. I mean, maybe it was just like, oh well, I'm not going to do that again. I mean, like that's still a really
Hmm.
powerful lesson. Like,
Hmm.
only get burned once by that thing. And then just hearing how people have transformed or taken challenges and made them into opportunities. I love it. And so I love stories. It's been, it's been storytelling all along my whole life. So getting to be in community with other entrepreneurs, hearing their stories, they inspire me and they inspire our listeners. And it's a highlight for sure.
Very cool. Lauren, you mentioned you're an empath. That's so many different things to so many different people. I mean,
Mm,
you feel and sense kind of things
yep.
around you. How
hmm
does that work for you?
Well, it's one of those, and this is another question I ask on my podcast. It's what's something when you were a kid that you perceived as a weakness or people told you was a weakness, but now it's, as a leader, it's your superpower.
Hmm.
Growing up, being an empath could be very painful for me. I didn't always understand that some of the emotions I was feeling were actually other people's emotions, like really strong emotions like anxiety or sadness. I would feel like these waves of emotion crest over me. I'd be like, "Whoa, what happened? I thought I was having a good day." And then as I got older, I realized like, oh man, that's not even mine. So a lot of times
Wow.
if I might be sitting next to someone like, oh, okay, that's strange. I'm like, oh, that's not mine. Okay, all right, just shake that off. Um,
Hmm.
but it makes me really good at what I do to be able to read other people, to maybe there's more to what they're saying. Maybe I'm like, okay, I need to dig deeper now. And when you're doing things like crafting messaging, it's like I can read between the lines. We're so bad at telling our own stories. I say it's hard to read the label from inside the bottle. Well, I'm able to
Right.
pull that out of people because I'm able to sense more from them. And so, it still can be painful sometimes, but it is a superpower.
Hmm. Yeah, some people would not think it's that, and I get to talk to empaths, and it's fascinating to me.
hmm hmm
Yeah, how you work. It's really, really, really interesting. Has there
Yeah.
been anything, Lauren, in the last month or so that you changed your mind on?
That's such a good question. Probably, man, stumper. I really do try to keep an open mind about pretty much everything. And so, yeah, I'll have to ask my husband. Did you talk me into something? Oh my gosh, I can't think of anything right this second, but probably, yeah.
I like to think that I can be changed on almost anything given new evidence.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and even we have an almost 11-year-old daughter, and she is not shy about coming to me like, um, you've asked me to do X, Y, and Z, and I actually don't think that's fair, because brother is getting to do ABC,
Ah, ah,
and sometimes I'm like, you know what? You're right, and thank you for advocating for yourself. I
you
apologize.
have a point.
You're free to
You
go.
have a Good for her. Good for her.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
I
look
started
out.
my yeah, look out world. Yeah, yeah. I love the youth, by the way.
Hmm.
Started my business, my tech business in the 90s, was
Mm.
working way too hard, Lauren. And 1460 nowadays, you're no stranger to
Yeah.
this. And but what my problem was is that I was not paying attention to my health, and I was
Hmm.
eating poorly and not sleeping well. And so next thing I know, I'm at the doctor. She tells me I'm at 340 pounds. So I had gained all this weight. I
Oh.
felt overweight, but I didn't think when that number hit.
Hmm.
And she said to me, if you don't lose this weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. So my
Mm.
daughter was just born.
Mm.
So I'm driving home, punching the steering wheel. What have I done? This is my pie hole. I did this to myself.
Hmm.
So I spent the next 6, 7, I can abuse me all I want, right, Lauren?
Right.
But I mean, I have a family now, right? I
Mm.
have to,
Hmm.
it's not about me anymore. You know what
No.
I mean?
Mm-mm.
Um, so I spent the next 6, 7 months, lost about 120 pounds, and I
Mm.
kept it off. So you have to look at this like a finishing line, right? These are
Hmm.
lifelong changes. Too many of us
Right.
kind of get to the goal and then go back to old habits, right? So when I
Hmm.
tell this story,
Hmm.
I always, what's your secret? What did you do? And there's no secret, Lauren. Discipline, right? I
Right.
have focus, motivation, routine. How does discipline play a role in your life?
Mm. I would say one thing I've been working on around discipline is actually discipline with boundaries.
Mm,
Um, as someone who is a recovering perfectionist, a recovering people pleaser, and I'm in the
mm,
service business, I want people to like me and do business with me and be happy.
mm,
Um, but realizing, what's my responsibility and what's not, and also boundaries with our relationships and how what we will or will not tolerate, especially in as far as like abuse goes. If it's just me, like, all right, you can say what you want, that's fine. But if you're
right.
speaking to a team member, like, now we have a problem. And
Mm,
so and not wanting to be like we had a situation with a client being really disrespectful to one of my youngest team members, and um, and I was saying, and some of the other team members for that client were also not behaving well. And I was saying to my team member, like, yeah, well, what you tolerate is what you endorse. And I thought, well, wait a minute, I'm tolerating something right
what you
now.
tolerate is what you endorse. Interesting.
Yeah. And so, so I'm, by not doing something about this, I'm endorsing how you're being treated. And
Hmm.
so I have to, I now have to get into a situation where things need to change, because this is not the type of business that we're running. Like, we're not vendors, we're partners. Is PR is a very intimate business. You have to be really open about what's going on, about what your hopes and dreams are for your business, what are the challenges, where are you not doing well. So people,
Hmm.
have to show us their soft underbellies, and we have to, treat that in kind. And so, um, being able to, so you're not just like ordering a hamburger from us. Like, we are in an intimate partnership ultimately.
Hmm.
And so when it starts to devolve and change, you'll be like, no, wait a minute, that you can't talk to us like that. And so having to make sure that we start relationships on the right foot, that we communicate boundaries around, what is acceptable or what isn't. And it's not like, browbeating people. I mean, a lot of folks are showing up ready to do it right. But you get burned enough times, and you're in business long enough, and you have enough at bats that, folks do sneak through. And I try to suss it out in the prospective client phase, but people are on their best behavior at that point. So, as we move through, how are we, what is our response time going to be, and
Hmm.
what are we tolerating when it comes to, language and things like that. And so boundaries for me has been a big one. And it's been the same thing. Like, when it was just me, yeah, whatever. But as soon as a team came on board, that I had to be much more disciplined around communication and internally too, making sure
Hmm.
it's a healthy environment inside the walls too.
What you tolerate, you endorse. That's really, yeah, because there's a price for inaction.
Hmm.
That's very interesting. I've always said, like, no answer is still an answer.
Yep. Hmm. Yep. Yeah, you're just waiting for somebody else to make the decision for you. Or,
Right.
it's happening.
Yeah.
You're still moving forward.
Yeah, so boundaries is where you see, discipline.
Hmm.
That's very interesting in developing that, and, right off the bat. That's interesting perspective. What motivates you, Lauren?
It's about people for me. I as long as I've been thinking about that question, which has been a few decades now,
Hmm.
and I've tried to be like, oh, is it something else? Do I have a higher purpose? But I really uh, relationships with people is what gets me out of bed in the morning. It's
Hmm.
the people who trust. If we're talking about business, the people who trust us with those big hopes, those big dreams, those big fears. That's I'm incredibly blessed by those relationships. I'm incredibly blessed by the trust that my team puts in me. That's their mortgages on the line if this doesn't go. Um, it's
Hmm.
my family, my husband, my children, my parents and sibling and his family, um and so yeah, it's people. I I feel like I was put here with this set of special skills and talents to help other people be successful. Like my success is, if they're successful, I'm successful.
So impact.
Hmm.
Yeah. So given that motivation of people and impact, how do you measure success?
And now we know why I've hired a coach.
These are the
um,
questions?
well, trying to, um, I'm so much better at helping other people or figure out like the vision for their business in life than I maybe am for myself. I'm a little bit I'm good at the present for myself. I don't dwell on the past much. I'm really kind of like I'm here and now, and I'm thinking a little bit like I'm looking at my calendar and okay, what's in the next couple months. But you
Hmm.
start looking at 3 years, 5 years from now, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I've written my own obituary before, which was a very
Really?
impactful process. Yeah, I was like, okay, well, if you're beginning with the end in mind, what kind of clarity do I need right now? Um, and that's useful. It's like, okay, and it was that impact. It's like, who's going to remember me, and how are they going to remember me? And so, if you're zooming way out, hopefully, 50 years from now, the impact and success that I hope to leave is a legacy of love and relationships where I nurtured others to be their best selves and
Hmm.
help them see more for themselves and help them, see the possibilities of their lives.
That's a wonderful. Want to show your love for discipline, inspiration, and the Joey Pinz podcast? Now's your chance. Introducing the brand new Joey Pinz merch store, where style meets discipline. Choose from premium apparel, cozy hoodies, stylish hats, durable bags, and your new favorite coffee mug, all featuring the iconic Joey Pinz logo. Perfect for podcast fans, discipline enthusiasts, or as unique gifts for friends and family. Every purchase supports the Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations podcast, helping us continue to inspire greatness and promote positive change. Visit joeypins.com/store today and wear your discipline proudly. Joey Pinz merch. Wear it, share it, and live it. Anecdote. Laura, I love what you're doing. There has to be a lot more emphasis on PR, and it can't be kind of scooped into marketing. And that's really what you do, because it's a separate discipline, and
Hmm.
it needs to be treated as such. I
Hmm.
really, really, really thank you for your time today. Anybody watching or listening, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, we are everywhere at Kwedar Co. So my main name is Kwedar, Kwedar. And so Kwedar Co is our website. That's all of our social handles. I'm really active on LinkedIn myself. So Lauren Kwedar Cockerell, come find me there. You're welcome to send me a DM and chat, or follow me there. We have lots of free resources and on our website and newsletters and all that good stuff with things that we're paying attention to. And then if you are an impatient entrepreneur and you would like to join asynchronous group therapy, you can find us at the Impatient Entrepreneur Pod.
Excellent. I thank you so much for your time. Next time I'm in the greater DFW area, perhaps you and your husband Clint and I will get a cup of coffee or a cup
I
of
would
tea.
love
Who
that.
knows?
Please do.
Thank you so much. You be well.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations.